much stuff floating around. I don't know. People trying to say they wasn't together.
Basically was trying to get into a threesome.
So I can rock my hair any way I want. And nobody's going to put no restriction on me because of what they think and their expectation. As long as I am carrying myself well, who cares what my hair looks like? And that part where they was trying to really not allow us to wear dreads, that's a whole different like show all by itself, because it's like, how dare you tell me that's not acceptable in corporate America? As long as I look presentable, like I just said, that just back up my theory. As long as I'm presentable, as long as I'm professional, and as long as I can execute the work, don't define me by my hair.
Right.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
Absolutely. And you said that when you said that your skin looks beautiful, where you get it from, that I'm sorry, that's funny to me. And the reason why I say that, I'll share a funny story. One time, this is when I was way younger, and I was working somewhere, and this woman walked into the store, and of course she was talking to her mom and saying, "I want my skin." Of course, she probably just came from the tanning salon. She was just like, "I want my skin darker. I want it dark like him." And he pointed at me. She pointed at me. And I'm looking at her like, you can't be dark as me, but you can damn sure try.
Right.
They tried. The tanning salons and them bras and products they got. They look like us. But let me tell you something. We are the most loved and hated people on God's green earth.
Agreed.
We are the most loved and hated because, everything about us, they admire, they want, they tell us black ain't beautiful, black bad guys wear black cats bad luck, they everything
Devil's
black is
food
bad.
Cake, Angel's food cake, right.
But look at them. They look at the black woman, right, and they say, I love those lips she got. They got full lips. So what do? They go try to buy the lips. All right. Mm-hmm. They like the way a black woman's body shaped. Well, how do I get a shape like that? What do I got to do? So what they do, they go under the knife. They go under the knife because there is no women who can give birth to 4 or 5 children and have what they call snapback. She don't carry all that baby weight. You know what I mean? I know. I know. Listen, I ain't got no filter, man. Forgive me. Hey, look, if you got to edit me sometime, it's okay.
I totally understand what you're saying on that level. Go ahead.
Yeah, I am in total agreement with that. It's like we're amazing. We could just do so many things, and this is not for me to try to make sure that I'm making men look bad or anything like that. But it's like, I'm sorry, when it comes to the African American woman, we are bad. We are so bad. But then going back to what we were saying earlier, how these people, they put these things against us so we can really question our beauty. And that's the crazy thing. We're really questioning our beauty, and we're such the SHIT, and I'm trying to keep it uncut, but for real, that's really how I feel, because I got to a place where I feel comfortable by myself within over the past, I think, 20 years. I don't have my hair relaxed. I don't wear long weaves. I don't have curly weaves. I don't went natural for 12 years, and then I said, I need a brand new look, and I cut it, and then I permed it. And if that's how I want it, that's how I want it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, and I totally understand what you're saying. But let's also bring this conversation to another point here, because yes, black women are always idolized and demonized by their hair. Why do you feel white women are not put in that same category, even when they do the same thing that we do or they do?
You're asking me that, or you're asking Terry?
Well, we'll go with you first, Lady K.
Well, for me personally, it goes back to what I said before. I think they want us to portray those people because they feel like that's what beauty is. So they say this is what beauty looks like, not your way of beauty. So it's like again, you're stripping us of our natural root. You're stripping us from our confidence. You're just mainly just stripping us. And as long as you have that power, and if we're going to go ahead and follow, then we're going to think, oh, this is how I should be. But this is why education is so important. When we educate ourselves where we come from, because we came from kings and we came from queens, and we know whose we are and who we belong to, the game will be over. But a lot of people don't even know they got the shackles on their feet. You know why they don't know they got the shackles on their feet? Because they have not moved. When you don't move, you don't know you don't have shackles on.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Everything that she said was right on point. You know, it's a mindset, and we have been brainwashed to think that there's something wrong with us, that we're not naturally beautiful. Right. We everything they want to be. So they sell us all these products to make us look like them while they're trying to look like us, you know? So they convince these women, and all these young women think that they have to have long, silky hair of some sort, right? So they go out and buy it, and they get it stitched into their head, glued into their head, and then they say, well, you know what? The European models have long eyelashes because they're taking pictures and they're selling a product. So what happens? Now we doing these extra long eyelashes because we are emulating whatever the European fashion industry put in front of us. You know, another example of how they beat us down, right? Black clothing lines. We all familiar with the black clothing lines, you know, urban wear, right? The FUBUs and the Fat Farms, the Sean Johns and all that stuff. Why the shelf life of black fashion is limited. We won't go out and buy those products today. They say, oh, FUBU and Carl Canada played out. We ain't wearing that no more, right? Yet, Gucci can come out with a product that looks horrible. But because it's Gucci, we'll go buy it.
Right.
Anything from a European house, there's no shelf life. There is no expiration date for that. Yet, we, people of color, will put an expiration date on our clothing designs and our products. Why is that?
Man, if I had that answer, I would definitely answer that for you. But trust me, that that's a. I really have no answer for that because a lot of time. Go ahead.
I'm gonna piggyback. It's not in duration of the clothing. I'm gonna touch base on that, but I'm also gonna bring something else into home too. So we're talking about, we noticing how when it comes to us and when it comes to a particular area in business, we don't have the longevity. And again, I'm gonna be honest with you, it just goes back and stem back from racism. And I'm gonna tell you why. If you think about it, right now, you don't see a lot of African American sitcoms on the TV. And if you do, it's particular shows, but even in that sense, you ain't gonna go too long. Like back in the day, the Cosby Show and A Different World, those were the longest running series at all time at one time in that African American realm, right? So now moving forward, as you can see, that person can have a show. Like I love Marlon. Marlon had a show for 2 seasons. He had a show for 2 seasons. Secretary Entertainer has his show, but you don't see the longevity. Why? Because they control it. They control the market. And then, as I said before, it's what we was taught. They teach us certain methods. So we just think, oh, I got to sell to get this. We wasn't taught to hold. You got to hold. Like back in the day, parents used to be so excited to say, oh, I got this house and I'm going to pass it down to my children. And y'all keep the land in the family. And then what happens? When Big Mama died, later on, all 8 children is fighting and they can't get along. So what happens? You end up selling the land because you can't get it together. But this is the time for us to come together because people don't understand. When we all
what you talking about?
it's a wrap. It will be a wrap. But we have to get that in order. And this is why Black women and Black women have to get it together. Yes, you may want us to be perceived in a different way, but then you got to also respect me that I'm my own person, my partner. So it's a prep. If you got a preference that you like long hair, I'm gonna remember to wear that in the bedroom. But in the streets, I'm gonna wear my hair how I want to. But at the same time, too, you as my man, yes, I'm gonna fulfill your fantasies and however you want it. But at the end of the day, I'm a grown woman. But at the end of the day, we just have to come together and stop misinterpreting it and just keep our eyes on the goals and plans, because the goal is to distract us from what's really going on. And as long as we keep fighting, the more they have the upper hand.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate that point you brought out, because generational wealth is very important. Having a legacy, you know, and I've seen too many families, including my own, where my grandmother said, keep this house in the family forever. And my nieces, my uncles and aunts couldn't get along. So what did they end up doing? Selling my grandmother's house. All right. See? Then my mother and father had properties that, you know, they said, whatever you do, don't sell this house, because if anybody ever have a situation, they can always come home, right? And we had the lesson on generational wealth, right? My mother passed away, and then years later, my father passed away, but my father had a will. And in his will, when he did his will, he sat down with me, my brothers, and my sisters, and he said, look, all of y'all are financially set. Everybody, each one of y'all are homeowners. What I want to do is, let's give my granddaughter an opportunity to be a homeowner. So when I pass, I want her to have the house. But if she can't handle it, I want one of y'all to step in, and he put it in writing, to take over and manage the business of the house to keep it in the family. Right?
Right.
I was doing my best to honor my parents' wishes. I lived in Pennsylvania. My niece was living in New York, and this is where this property was at. And some way, somehow, along the way, she got in her head she wanted to sell the property. And I literally had to fight with my niece in court to stop her from selling my parents' house, even though she inherited the house. But it came with a stipulation.
Right.
You know, and the judge actually put a stay on the sale to the property, but ultimately I ended up relenting and letting her sell the property, because the pressure from my brothers and my sisters, you know, because in the sale of the house, they were going to be entitled to some money. So my brother wanted to buy a new car, which he didn't need. My sister wanted to take some vacations, which she could pay for on her own, or whatever, because we sell off our generational wealth for the dumbest reasons, for a new car, for some clothes or a vacation, you know? So I have personally been affected by what you said. And that's why I just told you that story. We got to do better for our children and creating generational wealth, because that's how the other half get to live in nice, affluent neighborhoods. You why she doesn't work? Why the wife doesn't work? She's home taking care of the kids.
Right.
You know, why she don't work? And they live in this house where the taxes is $25,000 a year. How could they afford to live there? And this guy seemed to have a regular job. You know, he ain't a six-figure job, dude. He might be making $50,000 or $60,000 a year. How can he afford to live here? Because that house was grandma's house. That house he grew up in, or she grew up in, and it's paid for, and they're only paying the taxes. So therefore, they can live in $1 million home in $1 million neighborhood, and their cost to live there is only the taxes. That's what generational wealth does, you know. And we, as a people, got to learn that, you know. And that's why they can be 30 years old, living in $1 million home, working a job, making $60,000 or $70,000. How are they doing? Because every month he's just paying taxes. Ain't no mortgage. He paying taxes, so he can afford to pay the taxes. You know, at $400 or $500 a month. You know, $700 a month. You can pay that.
Absolutely.
So that's a whole nother show we got to do about generational wealth.
Yeah. Right. But I just want to piggyback real quick. Yes, within those generational wealth, it's because of multiple streams of income, but that's another focus too that we really have to zero in. Multiple streams of income is the reason why, like we just said, sue whoever is able to keep the property, because if the property is already paid for, then the money that I'm bringing in at this job, I can do something else with that money. Have that money working for me while I stay focused on the goal. And that's the thing. They stay focused on the goal. We have to train ourselves and our children to stay focused on the goal, because like I said, at the end of the day, it's all about us coming together and this building, and that's what makes us stronger. So, this rival between, black men and black women, is like, this is petty stuff. This is little stuff. We got bigger issues to fry. That's how I feel.
Yeah, we definitely do. And I definitely agree with both of y'all on that level. Now, I wanted to jump into, like, y'all both said something very, very interesting, especially you, Terry, as far as honoring wishes and everything in that nature. I want to kind of jump into this subject here. So we all know that there's miscommunication between men and women, or let me go with that, black men and black women. Why do you feel there's always a miscommunication between the two?
Well, what I think is most people listen to respond. And we have been trained to not trust one another. And because there's a trust issue and we don't trust one another, is why we have the breakdown in communication. Because she wants to talk back to him because she's her own woman, she's a grown woman, and she can do whatever she wants to do, which is fine, which is true. And he can't listen to her because his male ego say, I'm the man and you're going to listen to me. So when both people are talking at the same time, that means nobody's listening. And that's a learned behavior that has been taught to separate black men from black women, in my opinion.
So, okay. When you say a learned behavior, do you feel it's a learned behavior between their elders, or is a learned behavior because somebody said, this is what you're supposed to do?
Well, again, pop culture shapes and molds our children, and we were children first, so it molded us as well.
Okay.
If they only put certain images in front of you, no matter what you're taught, those images will always be seared into your mind, into your memory. Now, if you look at some of the TV shows that come on, the portrayal of black women on television shows and TV commercials is that she's smart-mouthed, she's very witty, she's over-sexualized, and she talks with her head bobbing back and forth, put her hand on her hip and her finger in your face. If they show you those images of women, of black women all the time, well, you're going to pick that up. You're going to start emulating that. They show us that black men got to keep it real, that the gangster culture is what it is. Shoot 'em up, bang, bang culture. They only portray us in those roles, Well, what are we going to do? How many people was attached to the roles of Scarface when you were growing up? People saw Scarface, and everybody in the hood wanted to be Scarface.
Absolutely right.
And if he was a little, they said that's the image of a tough guy. Then they did New Jack City, and that became a cult movie for black people. Okay, I want to be Nino Brown, right?
Right.
Well,
Correct
what about the Cosby Show?
Yes.
So that's why I say all these things are a learned behavior, and the breakdown of communication between black men and black women has been portrayed that way. They put that in front of us on every role in a movie. Where do you really see a loving couple of a black man and a black woman?
What I wanted to say was talking about the Cosby Show. Like, I really was a lover of that show because it emulated, a doctor and a lawyer and a big house and how, mom is still cooking, even though she has a career and she's a strong Black woman. She's not revealing too much, but she's sexy and she's classy. And I loved it. And I'm like, and that's what I grew up on. And I think a lot of us do wanted to be a Cosby kid because I wanted to be a Cosby kid, because I just thought that was so awesome. And I'm like, yeah, I wish I was adopted into that family because, again, of the positive image that they portrayed. And I love it. But I also want to say this too, and I'm going to take it to the word. I think a lot of people force religion. Now, I just want to clarify, I am a believer. I believe in God and I believe in Jesus as my Lord and Savior Christ. But I want to say there's a difference between being religious and you having a relationship with the Father. So in religion, when they will talk to the woman, they will say, hey, woman, submit to your man, right? Submit to your husband. But here's what a lot of people miss. Before that verse, it says, husbands and wives submit to one another. And a lot of people misinterpret what submission means. They don't even know the definition of submission. And this is why there's a lack in communication. Submission means yielding to one another. That's all it means. There's nothing more and there's nothing less. But you have to take your ego, like Terry said, out the way. Both woman and man, take your ego out the way. Listen to what he's telling you. Receive what he's telling you. And I know sometimes too, a lot of women, like you said, we like to talk because we want to just get out what we got to say. But no, just like that day, Terry, I heard you. When you spoke, I sat back and I received it. And that's what we have to do, especially when you're at that place where you want to receive correction, when you're at that place where you want to grow, when you're at that place, even though, you have your sound opinion, others have theirs as well, too. But it takes time. You have to cultivate that because someone doesn't just come out the womb and just start walking. No, that's why the mother have to nurse the baby. We have to get taught correctly. So there's a lot of disconnect because we were taught incorrectly. Woman, submit to your man.
Yeah, you said a lot right there because a lot of times we get that term misconstrued or misunderstood because a lot of times men always say, well, you're supposed to submit to me. I mean, well, it's like, whoa. Read the verse prior. And a lot of people just totally gloss over that. But let me bring y'all said something about how we are being perceived, and I want to jump on that, and then we're gonna roll up out of here. Black women being perceived in a certain light, in a certain way that, as you say, is in a negative light sometimes, especially when we're dealing with how we see women in social media, how we see women in rap videos, how we see women in on reality shows or sitcoms from back in the day. Why do you feel Black women are always misconstrued or always perceived in a negative light? I feel like that is the common theme here, especially in 2021. Why is that a common theme here? I want to get y'all's take on it.
Fear of a black planet, because we're the makers, the owners. We are the cream of the universe. They have told you that life started in Africa within a Black woman. So once we start believing of who we are and where we come from, there's power in that. So the only way they can take that power from us is to beat us down. And if they only show you an image of yourself, they know who you are, but they say, no, but this is who we want you to be. And we said, this is who you are. So we're going to make Halle Berry, who's a popular Black actress that everybody loves, she can't get a Grammy or an Oscar for any other role but being a damn near prostitute in that movie with Jerry Lee or Jimmy, whoever he was.
Billy Bob Thornton.
Billy Bob Thornton. You give her an Oscar for that role, which was a horrible role, and a negative image of her and black women. You give Denzel Washington an Oscar because he was a dirty cop and killing people, but you didn't give him an Oscar for Malcolm X. That was his best role. And he never did. You know what I mean? So they put these negative images on us and we wear them like a suit of clothes. They have taken, forgive me for saying this, Cardi B with her mouth and her images, you know, she is entertainment. But they have turned her into the role model, because then you got Nicki Minaj on the other side doing the exact same thing. Then they put these images of the Real Wives of Atlanta and growing up hip hop, and they put all these negative images in front of us and our children, and that's what we gravitate towards. You know what I mean? And it's a plan. And the reason why I say it's a plan, many, many years ago, I worked for Atlantic Records. I was working at Atlantic Records the day we had a meeting, and they said that in our black music division, we're going in a different direction. So I'm sitting in the meeting and I'm like, okay, we're going in a different direction. Because back in the 90s, hip hop and music, and black music, there was always a message in the music, right? If you think back to the music from the 60s and 70s, and even before that, we communicated with each other through our music. Ain't no stopping us now and all that type of stuff. Those were the songs that we communicated, was enlightening us. While working at Atlantic Records, they said we're going in a different direction. So I'm sitting in the meeting and, you know, I got me a little nice position over there. And they said for the hip hop division, we don't want no more of that positive music, uplifting music. That's what they said at Atlantic Records.
Okay, whoa. You just triggered me right there, because I'm a music head and I know a lot about the inner workings of music. So let me get this straight. The brass of Atlantic Records said, "Do you not want positive music?"
They said in the black music, in the black music division,
right,
they were going in a different direction. So basically they were saying a guy like Common or a guy like Mos Def, Khalid Kweli, whatever his name is.
Khalid Kweli.
Right. Guys like that were making that music, we don't want that anymore. We're not going to put marketing dollars behind that type of music. I'm just using them as examples. We're not going to put marketing dollars behind that type of music. They said, all we want to see is asses wiggling, titties jiggling, murder, death, kill. That's what sells. We want to sell sex, drug, and violence. That's what we want our music to say.
And this is the
music? Yes.
I'm sorry. These are the higher ups, the suits, the brass of Atlanta Records.
Yes. Yes.
Question.
Yes.
Who was signed to Atlantic at that time of that era? I just need to know.
Well, there are really only 6 companies in the music industry.
Right.
You know, and they're all networking time together. So this was just not people that were signed directly to Atlantic. You know, you got Atlantic, East, West, and all these other companies that's attached to the company.
Yeah. Universal, J Records.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers, Epic, those guys.
And this was before Seagram's purchased Universal Records, the alcohol company. At one point, they had. You remember when they purchased Universal? Well, this was around that same time, you know. And I quit my job. I quit my job because I said, you know what? I don't need this. I'm not going to be a part of this, because groups like Public Enemy shocked the world.
Yes,
because people was looking at the buffoonery of Flavor Flav and not listening to what Chuck D was saying. Because if you can recall, Public Enemy didn't win because black people was following them. Because a lot of black people thought Public Enemy was too militant because it was part of the Nation of Islam. They were too militant. So a lot of black people wasn't following them. What put Public Enemy over the top was young, white, suburban kids. Because they liked the beat of the music and the buffoonery of Flavor Flav. So when they first went out on tour, they did a high school tour all over the country. They were going to high schools, performing in auditoriums, and they were all white suburban high schools. And that's what put them over the map, over the top. Until one day somebody listened and said, "Do you hear what Chuck D is saying?" You know? And that's when that woke up a lot of people that were asleep. And the other thing was people got tired of seeing Bobby Brown poster on their little daughter's wall. You know,
right.
Get him off her wall because our music was shaping pop culture at the time. You know, the only thing, look, we had traded Michael Jackson off. Y'all can have Michael Jackson. We don't need Mike. Y'all can have Mike. You know, oh, y'all want Whitney? Y'all can have her too. But we good because we was shaping and molding the industry. But they got to a point where they said, these Negroes are getting strong again. We got to break this up. So if you take the positive message out the music and you only put asses wiggling and titties jiggling and people murder, shoot, murder, death, kill, well, the more you hear that, you're going to bop your head to it. So the next artist that's going to come up, what is he going to do? That's the music you're going to make, because if you're putting the marketing dollars behind that type of music, that's the image that they're going to put out. And guess what? What we see and what we hear shapes and molds us. You know, yeah, you can close your eyes, but you can't close your ear gate. So you're going to hear it. And guess what? Before you know, you bopping your head to it. The dude said he just took 10 Percocets and went in the house and killed everybody. The beats sound good. The words line up together. And we bopping our head to it. And guess what? The kids are believing in that. So what do? They emulate that. Just like how everybody wants to be Nino Brown. Everybody wants to be Scarface. They want to be the Godfather. That's just my opinion, though, you know.
I hear what you're saying on that because we see it today. We still see it today to this day. Because I was having a conversation with Lady Kane not too long ago, whereas, we were talking about imagery and black women. When it comes to hip hop, black women are doing. I mean, yes, they can rap their ass off, but 9 times out of 10, half of them will not have. Most of them are shaking ass and doing all this other stuff. So it's like you have to be this in order to have that. And sometimes that can be perceived in a very negative light. But when you get so much of it, it becomes the norm. And then when it becomes the norm, you try to do something different, you're going to be looked at weird. It's like, I don't know about you, because we see that, we like it. So it's just like one of those things. It's just like, yeah, I see how you can say we are conditioned to like something else because they're practically shoving it down our throats. However, sometimes you just have to look at it from not look at it, but a perception of, okay, this is what the norm is, but at the same time, we need to shift it in another direction. And then we have to have a group of people believe in that. But unfortunately, the group of people who believe in that are outweighed by the people who don't believe in that, such as you said, allegedly, the brass of Atlantic Records saying we want to see titties jiggling and ass wiggling. So it's just one of those moments. But Kay, you want to chime in real quick?
I sure enough do, because we're talking about the entertainment business, and we don't have no idea that it's higher than that. So yes, Terry pointed out, that particular company said, hey, this is what we're shifting. But hold on, I'm going to kick it up a notch. Okay. And I urge people to go and watch this. You actually need to go on Netflix and watch The United States of America versus Billie Holiday. That movie says it all. It goes back to the higher up, the government control. And when the government feel like there's time for a shift, they will implement, because you got to remember, all this is strategic. It don't just happen overnight. Just like me and my, we had a conversation a couple of months ago talking about cryptocurrency, and what we were saying, how cryptocurrency and artificial intelligence go hand in hand. And then we mentioned about the Jetsons, and it was so amazing how the Jetsons was projected back in the 60s. So that gave us the image. Oh wow, flying cars. Oh wow, the robot. Oh wow, we can do meetings from the TV screen. So again,
Star Trek. Remember Star Trek? Star Trek.
Yes, they give it in increments. They're telling us what they're going to do, but it comes in slow motions. But like Terry said, the woke people always see. But here's the thing: the people that's woke, they can only fight so much because of the upper control. And this is what it goes back to what I said originally. If honestly, I truly believe if all of us would stand up, game over. But we already know here in America, they're going to keep those stipulations. They're going to keep us, to their certain grounds. The people that don't even know that they got shackles on their feet because they're afraid to move. They don't even hear the shackles because they have not moved. You know why? Because they presented with all the things they told us to be. They put the fear in us. They say, this is how we should look. This is how we should act. And then sometimes it's going back to the original what we talked about, why women have to do 10 times extra, because you're making me feel like I have to do 10 times extra because you're telling me the way I look, you don't like it. But then on the flip side, you emulate me. So you can do it, but I can't do it. You see what I'm saying? That structure, pay attention, follow direction. If you don't, there's consequences. And there's consequences. And those consequences come in different ways, shapes, and forms. So it's bigger than what we think. It didn't just come from the head of, Atlanta Records, all those people. No, it came from the main head. The United States of America is a corporation for a lot of people who don't know.
Well, I got to say, you're 100% right, because when Atlantic Records made that shift and changed directions, the entire music industry did the exact same thing at the exact same time.
Exactly.
So therefore, they wasn't the only ones doing it. It like you said, somebody somewhere along the way said, "Hey, stop! You gotta stop doing this. You have to create a paradigm shift and do this." Because when it was first done, it was a paradigm shift. Because guess what? When when NWA said "fuck the police," right?
Yep.
That was the beginning of a paradigm shift. They pushed back against that. They pushed back against the LA rappers. But then what happened was, when they realized, well, they murdering, killing each other over there in LA. They gang banging, they doing all this. Then somebody said, you know what? That's the way to go. Gangster rap, murder, death, kill. Do that. Because as long as they doing that, they're going to commit felonies. So we can take their Second Amendment right away from them and use the Mumford Act to keep them from getting guns, and let them kill each other off. Well, that's gangster rap became the theme song of the gangbangers. It became the theme song of the drug dealers. Guess what? They wasn't riding their cars banging no Luther Vandross. Talk about I want to love my woman. They wasn't playing Marvin Gaye, Al Green. You know what I mean? They wasn't talking about making love. They driving in the car. Music sets your mood. So if you in the car driving and they talking about, I'm gonna take this Uzi and I'm gonna spray the corner, and the beat's dope, you hype up, you banging on that. So you pull to the store and some guys standing in front, you mean mugging them, they mean mugging you. You go in your car, pull your Uzi out and start shooting at them, because that's the mood that was set, that you're in. And that's how they use music, and that's why we have to own stuff. And it wasn't a myth or story about Bill Cosby putting in a bid to buy NBC. That was a true story. He did throw his hat in the arena and say, if y'all gonna sell it, I'm down to buy it. You know what? And then started all his troubles. Stuff that he was in jail for, stuff that was done in the 60s. Why is he in prison today for that? Because he stepped out the box and he tried to take control of media. There is no black-owned media. They didn't think BET was going to work. They thought it was going to be all buffoonery. until they realized that BET had a news show that talked about black news and black events and black. They was building stuff around black people, and it wasn't just black buffoonery. And then Clear Channel came in, and guess right, Clear Channel, Viacom came in and overpaid for BET. Here's $1 billion. We're gonna take this from you. You know,
and Bob
they overpaid.
Sold it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we have to own some things so that we can do what we need to do. You know, because if we don't own nothing, now is the only time that we have the opportunity to have our own platforms, just like what we're doing right now. We having this conversation. We are having unscripted conversation, and we're gonna post this on YouTube, you know, and I'm gonna share it on a social network. We have created our own platform. You know what I mean? And we have to keep doing this and keep dialogue like this going to get our point out and get our message out, because the mass media is not going to allow us to do it. Right. You see how they took Black Lives Matter and almost said, you know, it's a terrorist organization, you know? So we have to continue to do things like this, what we're doing, and chopping it up with amongst each other and talking about black issues and things that affect us, you know? And so I'm going to say this before I go. I post a lot of stuff to stimulate people's mind. Sometimes it's going to piss people off the wrong way. And that's my goal, because the only way we can get black people attention is through controversy, you know? Mm-hmm. So for black women to pay attention to my posts, I got to put something up that's going to piss them off. And then that gives me the opportunity, while they're attacking me, to talk to them and communicate with them. And via social network, I'm typing out, putting my comment in to clarify what I said and what I'm doing. That creates the dialogue. Because if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't be here today. So we got to keep doing things like that till we can save our people. It's all about saving our people, you know? So I'm going to throw it up against the wall and see if it sticks. And I'm going to do anything that I can do to use my platform to make an impact and change the mindset of black people in America.
Thank you, Terry. I really do appreciate that. I think tonight we all said a mouthful, you know, and these are never ending conversations. And like you said, we have to keep this up. And this is one of the reasons why I got here, because I wanted to express some things and, you know, and be vocal about some things. And I said, you know what, let me create this platform. So I just appreciate a lot of us that's stepping in that realm, that's breaking the shackles and say, no, let's talk about it. But not only just talk about it, but let's be about it. So everyone, I hope you enjoyed this show tonight. Continue to follow us here at the Lady K Chat Podcast. I apologize. Here at the Lady K Chat Podcast, the K and Manny Show on YouTube, Instagram, Apple, Spotify, and all that good stuff. And please, we definitely want to hear from you. Tell us in the comment what you like, what we said tonight. And if you want to say something that, you know, that goes against what we said, let us know, because we need to, that's what it's all about. We need to come to the table and sit about it and just listen to all perspectives so there can be one main purpose. And the main purpose is just to come together. So with that being said, everyone, have a great night. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.
All right, y'all. Good night. Peace out, y'all.
Lady K.